Hi guys, welcome back to my workshop. In the last video, I assembled and installed these cabinets along the back wall, and today I'm going to show you how I DIY'd this giant countertop for less than $60. Check out the description below for the tools and materials that I used. I also have a set of project plans attached below. I only have one more project left until the final reveal of the workshop, so let's get to building these countertops. I looked into butcher block countertops, but that would have cost over $500, so I decided to make my own out of 2x10 pine boards for a grand total of $56. You can see the knots and the wood grain very clearly. I like the unfinished yet polished look for the workshop. It matches the pine board ceiling as well, but if you don't like that look, you could always go with a different type of lumber. The first thing that we did was plane all the boards down to the same thickness. I know this is a tool that not many people have, so it's okay to skip this step. You're just going to have to do a lot more sanding. If you are looking to add this tool to your workshop, I recommend this rigid planer. I will link it in the description below. After the boards were all planed down, we took them through the table saw. We ripped every board down to 8.5 inches so that the final depth of the countertop with the 3 boards will be 25.5 inches. We made sure to cut off both sides of the board to get that 8.5 inches so that each edge of the board was nice and square. I cut the boards down with my miter saw to get them to the right length. I made sure to leave them long. I will make the final measurement and cut later on, so I left 6 inches or so on each end. The countertop is over 13 feet long, so we couldn't just use 12-foot boards, unfortunately. We had to splice them together to get the full length. With this pattern, we used one 12-foot board and 4 8-foot boards. We made sure to stagger the seams to make them less noticeable. We could have used 16-foot boards, but we had no way to transport them to the house, but this ended up working just fine. Now that I have the boards arranged how I want them, with the good face of the board facing down, I marked out all of the pocket holes. The outside boards will be screwed into the middle board. I used my Kreg jig to pre-drill all the pocket holes. I love this Kreg jig. It automatically sets the depth. I will link this in the description below. Pocket holes are drilled, and now I'm going to secure the boards lengthwise first. To do this, I used a good amount of wood glue and 2.5-inch pocket screws. Now that we have our 3 long boards together, we can glue them up. I have a bunch of clamps here that I'm going to use. These are panel clamps from Rockler. These will force the boards flush and flat, and then I have these 48-inch clamps to clamp all the boards together. I definitely could have used more clamps for this length of countertop, but I'm just working with what I have. Okay, so I have my boards laid out on the clamps. The plan is to start with these 2 boards first, and then once the wood glue sets, I'll add the 3rd board. I think it would have been too tough to try and tackle all 3 boards at the same time, especially with boards this length. I've never worked with boards this length before, so it'll be interesting to see how the clamps hold up. I'm gonna glue these together first and then use the panel clamps to sandwich them together. And then I'll plan to work my way down the line with the pocket screws, clamping the rest of the clamps as I go. I'm gonna have Devin help me pull or push the boards as I go down the line just to make any small adjustments, but that's the plan. I glued up the edge of the first board, set it in place, and then worked down the line, clamping and screwing the boards together. We came back at the end of the day and added the last board following the same steps. Definitely not perfect, but I've got my belt sander ready to fix any imperfections. The next day, we removed the clamps and brought the countertop outside for sanding. As you can see, I've got some work to do with the belt sander. I'm going to sand down these high spots and try to get this as flat as possible. I used 60 to 80 grit for this first round of sanding. Before sanding, I scraped away some of the dried wood glue. I mentioned before, a planer isn't necessary, but it will speed up the process. You'll definitely want to invest in a portable belt sander though. This thing was less than $100 and it can work magic. After everything was sanded down flat with the belt sander, I used the orbital hand sander up to 120 grit to get rid of all the sanding marks and to get the countertop nice and smooth. After everything was sanded down, I used some wood filler to fill any small seams. After that dried, I went through with 120 grit once more. Make sure to sand any exposed edges of the countertop as well. The countertop is filled and sanded. Now we can cut it down to size. I took exact measurements of the space in between the cabinets and left about a 1/4 inch gap, an 1/8 inch gap on each end. With the countertop this size, I wanted to leave plenty of room so that if it is a little bit out of square, it will still fit into place. I used some scrap wood as a guide and used my circle saw to cut each end of the countertop, making sure to avoid any of the pocket screws. Next, I used my jigsaw to notch out the 2 front corners to fit around the face of the adjacent cabinets. Last but not least, I took my router and round over bit to round off the front edge of the countertop. You could also use a sander, but either way, it's a good idea to soften the corners of any exposed edges. Devin helped me set the countertop in place. Fortunately, it fit on the first try. I didn't want to stain or finish the countertop in case I needed to make any final cuts or adjustments, so I'm just going to finish it in place. The countertop is in place. The whole countertop is a little warped, so we're going to need to put some weight on it while we secure it to the cabinets. Each corner of the cabinet has this corner blocking, so I drilled a small hole in each of the corner blocking, and then I'll secure a 1.25 inch screw up into the blocking and into the countertop. I was able to clamp the front edge of the countertop to the cabinets, so I secured the front edge first, and then Devin stood on the back edge of the countertop all the way down so I could secure the back side. The countertop is secured to the cabinets, it's nice and flat, and now we can finish it off. I decided to go with the same whitewash mixture that I did on the ceiling, 1 part paint and 1 part water. I brushed on the whitewash and then wiped it off right away with a clean rag. After the whitewash was dry, I applied 3 thick coats of this polyurethane. I sanded in between each coat with 220 grit sandpaper. There you have a beautiful countertop for only $56. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and try it out for your next countertop project. I'm building a giant custom pegboard next week, so stay tuned for that project. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video.